In the headlines, Supreme Court extends validity of old Naira notes as legal tender till December 2023. Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi reject outcome of presidential election, vow to challenge results in court. Police repel bandits attack, kill 2, recover rifles in Katsina. And on the foreign scene, French President Macron says era of interference in African domestic affairs is over. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. And now the news in detail. The Supreme Court has ordered the circulation of the old Naira notes alongside the new ones until December 31. In a unanimous judgment, a 7-member panel of justices presided by Justice Ian Gokoro on Friday held that the directive by President Muhammadu Buhari to the Central Bank of Nigeria for the redesigning and withdrawal of old notes of 200, 500 and 1,000 naira without consultation with the states, the Federal Executive Council and the National Council of State was unconstitutional. The Apex Court observed that no reasonable notice was given before the implementation of the policy as provided under the CBN Act. The lead judgment, read by Justice Emmanuel Ajim, also dismissed the preliminary objection by the federal government challenging the jurisdiction of the Apex Court to hear the suits by the 16 states challenging the currency policy. Presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has described the outcome of the just concluded election as a fraud and rape of democracy that must be challenged. Addressing a world press conference at the Adwa Center in Abuja, the PDP presidential candidate said he's consulting on his next line of action. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports.
Atiku recalled his many battles for the survival of democracy to set the tone for the conference.
It was a struggle that nearly cost me my life and that of my son, Adamu, who is seated here today in Kaduna, where 8 policemen were killed in their attempt to save our lives.
The PDP candidate expressed his views on the outcome of the last Saturday's presidential election.
The weekend election was neither free nor fair. Preliminary assessments indicate that it is the worst conducted election since the return to democratic rule. The manipulation and fraud that attended this election was unprecedented in the history of our nation.
He also speaks on the next line of action.
I call on all men and women of goodwill to join hands with us in the vanguard to defend our Constitution from the brigandage of anti-democratic forces. I urge Nigerians to remain vigilant and resolute. You have the constitutionally guaranteed right of freedom to choose your leaders. We will not, and I repeat, we will not sit idly by and watch your rights taken from you.
He cheated the candidate of the Labour Party for rushing to stand alone for fear of governors gang up as he welcomed a possible reunion in form of alliance or dialogue. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Similarly, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has said his party won the presidential elections conducted on February 25th and will explore all legal and peaceful means to prove it. Obi said this on Thursday at a press conference held in Abuja. The report.
This is the first public appearance from the Labour Party presidential candidate since the conclusion of the presidential poll. At the briefing, Obi spoke on the alleged irregularities that characterized the poll, which he described as one of the most controversial outings in Nigeria's political history. For him, the mandate will be claimed through peaceful and legal means, and urged his supporters, especially the youth demography, not to despair but exercise their franchise in the forthcoming governorship and state houses of assembly polls.
It is a clear version from electoral rules and guidelines. As we were promised, this election, as you know, did not meet the minimum standard expected of a free transparent, credible, fair election. And I assure you that good people of Nigeria, that will explore all legal and peaceful action to reclaim our mandate. We won the election, and we will prove it to Nigerians.
The Labour Party presidential candidate says evidences on how the election was manipulated will be presented in court, where he has been advised to turn to. He added that he is yet to congratulate the president-elect and clarify that he is not in alliance with the PDP, but welcomes any member of the public who feels hurt about the outcome of the elections.
I assure you that I am totally committed for a better future in this country, and nothing will stop that. That is commitment. My commitment is total. Be rest assured that your support will not be in vain. And you will not find us wanting. We must build a better Nigeria.
Peter Obi, while enjoining supporters and other Nigerians who voted for him to remain calm, peaceful and law-abiding, assured them that this is not the end but the beginning. He acknowledged that he and the vice presidential candidate of the party, Dati Ahmed, remain committed until the battle is fought and victory is achieved. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Elder statesman and First Republic politician Tanko Yakase has called on Nigeria's president-elect Bola Tinubu not to dwell on the pattern taken by the recent electoral outcome that produced him, but work to unite and develop the country. Yakase, who spoke exclusively to Trust TV's Shafi'u Suleiman, also says there is significant improvement in the nation's electoral and democratic experience despite identified shortcomings.
Speaking on the gains brought about by the just concluded presidential election, Yakase said 2023 heralded significant departure in the handling of election from previous experiences.
There were few violence in a few places. Out of 36 states, I don't think where some violence was recorded was not more than 2 or 3 states. And even in each of the 3 states, it will be limited to 1 or 2 local governments. I've observed that very carefully.
The First Republic politician says, though allowing ethnicity and religion to influence electoral choices is a dangerous pathway, winner of the election should run an inclusive government that will carry every Nigerian along.
But it's more dangerous to the Igbos themselves, because they are now isolating themselves. They are not with northerners, they are not with southerners, they are not even with the southern minorities. They are to themselves. It is very dangerous. They spread all over this country.
He shares some of his past experiences contesting elections since 1959.
When in 1959, Malam Bukar Gumi was quoting profusely from the Electoral Act, or law in those days. Because I didn't read them, I had no alternative but to listen to him and to agree to him. My advice to anybody who is now contesting election, maybe it's too late today, but before the next election, to take his time and read the Electoral Act very, very well. If it is possible, let him read it time and time, 3 or 5 times, so that by the time the election is being conducted, he will be able to be well guided by the provision of the Electoral Act.
Yakase says Nigeria is urgently in need of progressive development that will require unity of purpose and patriotic citizenry for the nation to realize its potentials. He harps on the need for Nigerians to keep the peace irrespective of their differences, especially in the aftermath of the election. Shafi'u Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
A coalition of local election observers group has said the just concluded 2023 presidential election fell short of international best practice as it was not free, fair and credible. They stated this during World Press Conference in Lagos. The report.
According to these observers, the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections fell short of international best practice. Citizens Observers Up, a coalition of selected observers, urged that citizens have lost trust in the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct a free and fair election. Spokesperson of the group, Chris Enyema, said INEC changed the rules of the game in the middle of the game. He alleged that the electoral umpire failed to comply with the Electoral Act. A Nigerian youth ambassador, Paul Church, who quoted section of the 1999 Constitution as amended as well as the Electoral Act, faulted the failure of INEC to transmit the result real-time from polling units.
I want to really call on the international community not to buy into the idea that we conducted a free, fair, and credible election. Because from even what they have said, the election has fallen short of international best practices. How can you be conducting election where more than half of your beavers deployed into the pools were not working? Most of the accreditation channels that they ought to observe weren't functioning, and then you are going ahead. In some polling units of this country, nobody observed the protocols as observed in the electoral guidelines signed into law by Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari.
So know that in section 47, subsection 3, it states that wherever the beavers fail and cannot be replaced, the elections in that polling units should be cancelled and a rerun scheduled. But we saw that the areas where beavers have failed and were not replaced, INEC still had results coming from those polling units, results that were not uploaded in real time directly to the INEC server.
While noting that they are not in support of any political party, the observers urged the INEC chairman to step down. They said Nigerians should not accept the presidential result as it was not free, fair, and credible.
We are not supporting any political party. No. All we need is credible election. We need INEC to sit up. If possible, INEC chairman should step down, because my children's life depends on this. If we don't get it right, we have failed as Nigeria. We have failed the world.
Observers who call for a better exercise during the governorship and State House of Assembly election on March 11 call on the youth to remain calm and not to take the law into their hands.
Following the emergence of the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, as winner of the 2023 presidential elections, millions of Nigerians across the country have continued to react. In Gombe State, Trustee Vice Ibrahim Ismail speaks with some residents who opened up on their expectations from the president-elect. The report.
Millions of Nigerians who voted in the 2023 presidential elections last Saturday are expecting a lot from the president-elect. With the current situation in the country, a significant number of those who voted want an end to the lingering security and economic crisis in the country.
100 years first, we have to see, he has to give us security first in this country. That's my first expectation, tackling insecurity. Then the next thing will be the economic situation, the hardship that citizens of this country are facing. They can do something about it.
Other Nigerians were specific on what the president-elect should achieve within the first 100 days of his administration.
My expectation, my first thing that I expect him to do is to clear all these roads, this old port road, to have us new road in this our side and everywhere in Nigeria, to make sure that those people that they think something else on him, they will see, inshallah, what he will do better, inshallah.
We hope the president will focus on the stability of our economy and then unite the country. So also to focus on the educational system of our country, whereby we hope the education system will be improved in all the ways, facilities, in terms of welfare of the staff and education, so that it will take it to a greater height, and then try to focus on the economy of our country. We hope he will provide all the necessary things that the security agents need that will help them to carry out their duties successfully without any problem.
In his acceptance speech, the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu vowed to be a servant for all Nigerians, irrespective of party or religious affiliations. The President-elect has multiple problems to address upon assumption of duty. These include, but not limited to, ensuring unity, security, and economic diversification. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
The APC Senator-elect for Oyo South Senatorial District, Sharafuddin Ali, has debunked insinuations making the rounds that there is a gentleman agreement between his party and the ruling People's Democratic Party ahead of the March 11 governorship election. The former Secretary of the Oyo State Governor, who described the claim as unfounded, boasted that the APC in Oyo State was determined to wrestle power from the PDP.
What arrangement? Tell me the arrangement. Tell me the arrangement. Somebody who claims that he's voting for Asiwaju should come into APC. You have already been saying that. They are welcome. Ask them. If they say that, yes, they voted Asiwaju, how about the senatorial candidates? How about the House of Reps? Why did their party lose? Asiwaju is the party man. Everybody wanted him because we believe he's the best candidate. So that could be correct, but there is no arrangement, to my knowledge. Are you going to ask any of the candidates to step down? Not a candidate that whose party has got the 3 senatorial seats and not less than between 8 and 9 House of Rep seats out of 14. Are you going to ask such a person? Why didn't the other party win? By the grace of Almighty God, that's what I used to say. By the grace of Almighty God. The people in Oyo State are tired of PDP. They want Senator Teslim Kolawole Folani.
The Independent National Electoral Commission has said the supplementary elections will be fixed after the governorship and state assembly elections. This was made known in a statement signed by the National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, on Thursday. He assured that the governorship and state assembly elections will be held on March 11 alongside the postponed elections in Enugu and Edo states. You're watching Trust News Update. Coming up after the break. Aftermath of Maiduguri market fire. Stay with us.
That's great.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining us, you're watching Trust News Update, a recap of our top stories. We told you that Supreme Court extends validity of old Naira notes as legal tender till December 2023. You also heard that Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi rejects outcome of presidential election, vow to challenge results in court. Moving on to security, the Katsina State Police Command on Wednesday repelled terrorist attack on Yesore village in Batsari local government area of the state, killing 2 terrorists and recovered 2 AK-47 rifles with 97 rounds of 7.62mm live ammunition. The command's public relations officer, SP Gambo Isa, in a statement on Thursday, said the hoodlums invaded the village with AK-47 rifles, shooting sporadically, but they were successfully repelled by police and vigilance operatives. He explained that the police received a distress call on Wednesday that terrorists in their numbers attacked the village, and the divisional police officer in charge of Batsadi led a combined team of police and vigilante group to the area where they engaged them in a fierce gun battle. He said many of the terrorists were believed to have been neutralized or escaped with gunshot wounds, adding that search parties were combing the nearest bushes with a view to arresting them or recovering their dead bodies. He therefore appealed to members of the communities around the scene of the incident to report to the nearest police station any person found or seen with a suspected injury. Scores of people were in the early hours of Friday killed when an explosion occurred at an illegal crude oil bunkering site at Rumwekbe community in Emohua local government area of Rivers State. According to reports, the incident occurred at about 2 a.m. at a tapping point on the Trans-Niger Delta pipeline, which passed through the community. A spark came from the bus loaded with crude oil for transportation to a refining point, a development that resulted into a huge fire explosion. Executive Director of Youth and Environmental Advocacy Center, Fine Face Dunamene Fine Face, in a statement issued in Port Harcourt, said the victims, including women, were burnt beyond recognition. The spokesman of the Rivers State Police Command, Grace Iringe Koko, confirmed the incident. President Muhammadu Buhari has commiserated with victims of Maiduguri Monday market fire during a visit to Borno State. The president commissioned roads, motor park, a cancer center in the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, as well as the newly constructed NNPP gas power plant, among others. He said the gas power plant is a testament of his administration's effort towards tackling electricity challenges in the country.
Out of an incremental 4,000 megawatts of power generating assets that this administration embarked upon to improve national power supply and stimulate economic growth, following my directive to ensure immediate restoration of reliable power supply to Maiduguri within the shortest possible time.
I must also mention that the government and people of Borno State are in total support of your reform agenda, aimed at addressing the drift in our national economy and to restore our confidence in the capacity of government to bring about the desired transformation in our lives. Indeed, your policies and programs have repositioned our dear country to its rightful place in the Committee of Nations.
And with that, we move to the international scene. French President Emmanuel Macron reiterated on Thursday that Paris has no intention of returning to past policies of interfering in Africa. He arrived in Libreville on Wednesday at the start of a four-nation African tour aimed at resettling relations with the continent. The French president's visit to four Central African countries comes at a time when France finds itself facing a wave of hostility among its former colonies in the Sahel, forcing it to withdraw its troops. Ahead of his visit, he said there would be a noticeable reduction in the French troop presence in Africa in the coming months and a greater focus on training and equipping allied countries' forces. He insisted that the reorganization was neither withdrawal nor disengagement, but adapting an arrangement with allies. And finally, in sports, Super Eagles head coach Jose Peseiro has celebrated the Flying Eagles' passage to the semi-final at the 2023 African Under-20 Cup of Nations. Peseiro also felicitated with the team for securing a place at the 2023 FIFA Under-20 World Cup. The Flying Eagles achieved both feats after beating the Hippos of Uganda 1-0 in their quarter-final clash at the Suez Canal Stadium, Ismailia, on Thursday night. Ibrahim Juma scored an own goal on the half-hour mark to ensure victory for Ladan Bosso's side. Masera on his Twitter handle wrote, "Congratulations to our Flying Eagles who have guaranteed a spot in Under-20 World Cup in May, as well as being through to the semi-finals of the Under-20 AFCON. The Flying Eagles will face winner of the quarter-final tie between Gambia and South Sudan in the semi-final on Monday." And with that, we've come to the end of Trust News Update. Don't forget to follow us across all our social media platforms. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. Thanks for watching.